Turn the lights on for the Tyler Bright and Early podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Bright, PBJ Productions' official flagship podcast for all things college football centered. And here we are. It is May 17th, Saturday of 2025. Let's jump right into it. A little bit about what this podcast is. As I mentioned, it's going to be college football centered, but it won't just all be college football. We'll also talk about some current events going on, some sport news that could be interesting to talk about, as well as some other interesting food for thought, if you will. Pun very intended. You'll see in a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of what the podcast is going to be encompassing and what it's going to be the makeup of this show. Come join the ride with me. It's going to be a lot of fun. But a little bit about myself. So my name is Tyler Bright. I'm originally from Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's about halfway between Chicago and Detroit. It's also where Western Michigan University is located. But I didn't decide to go to school there. I decided to go 5 hours south to the University of Louisville. Yes, Louisville, not Louisville. It's Louisville. I learned that really quickly when I was a freshman. But got my bachelor's degree in sport administration with a minor in sports media. In fact, I just got it this past week. I'm a recent grad. I got it a week ago. But yeah, I want to work in sports broadcasting, specifically to be a play-by-play broadcaster for a Division I university on the radio, or work for a network, whether it's television, radio, or even a professional team, whatever that may be. If you have jobs, let me know. I would love to hear about them and probably even apply. But we'll see. I'm an ambitious broadcaster. What can I say? Also have an interest in voiceover and theater. And this podcast, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a work in progress. I've always wanted to get a podcast going and get it finally up on its feet. And here we are. But it was always about taking the initiative and finding the right team. Luckily, I have a great team in PBJ Productions. Also getting the equipment set up because, boy, that's a hassle. But here we are. Let's jump right into it. Starting off with Sherrone Moore, the head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, suspended for 2 games in 2025 in relations to the Connor Stallion scandal back in 2023, the year they won the national title. What's really interesting about this suspension is the weeks that he is suspended, the 2 weeks. It's weeks 3 and 4. It's not the first two games of the season. So he will be there for New Mexico and Oklahoma, but he won't be there for Central Michigan and Nebraska. And my biggest question is, for the other side in Nebraska, how does this make you feel? I'm not sure if Michigan chose if it's self-imposed or if the NCAA decided it. But if Michigan decided to suspend Sherrone Moore for a conference game against Nebraska, Matt Rule, how does this make you feel? Like, if I were Nebraska, I would use that as bulletin board material and motivate the hell out of my players to play their best game on the gridiron that day and get probably a little bit chippy, I'm not going to lie. That can be a trap game. I think that could be a potential trap game that the Cornhuskers could possibly upset. Am I going to predict it or bet on it? Absolutely not. But I think Nebraska is improved, even improved on the team that they were last year, which is their first bowl appearance in forever because they were the best 3-9 team ever. Remember that. But I think they're going to be a lot better. But now I also think Michigan's going to be better from what they were in 2024. They're not on the same level of what they were in 2023, but they are going to be improved just simply on the fact that they have Bryce Underwood. Now, I hope Bryce Underwood's the starting quarterback because of the NIL money that he's getting, but he's going to be an improvement at the quarterback position. We'll see how it plays out. Could be a potential trap game, though, especially since it's in Lincoln, Nebraska. Now, moving along, we'll talk about the Akron Zips. They are ineligible in 2025, or ineligible for the postseason, I should say, in 2025. So they cannot make a bowl game. It's the second year in a row that they are below the requirement for APR, which is academic progress rate. So really unfortunate for the Zips. Now, I'm not saying that they would have made a bowl game anyway. In fact, they were probably going to win like 2 or 3 games. But nonetheless, it sucks because what are you playing for? There's no motivation, All you have to play for is basically pride. And it really sucks for the players because the transfer portal closed. So they're kind of just stuck in Akron. They can't go anywhere. Definitely a tough spot to be in. We've seen a couple other teams, have a low APR. Akron, I think it's because it's the second year in a row, they're having a little bit more of a harsh penalty because last season, I think they just reduced or took away a couple practices that they were supposed to have. But here they are. They're ineligible in 2025, so a tough task for Joe Moorhead, who was a head coach in the SEC at one point for Mississippi State and even an offensive coordinator for Saquon Barkley. Now, moving along once again, we'll talk about the dark horse here in 2025, and that's a pretty broad statement. A dark horse for what? A college football playoff? A national championship? Or a bowl game? A dark horse for what? We'll keep it at a playoff for this sake. And I'm going to use a personal perspective in the Louisville Cardinals. Now, I'm not saying the Louisville Cardinals are going to be the dark horse in 2025, although they very well could be. Because if you look at it this way, the Cardinals, a couple plays go differently in 2024, and they would have made the college football playoff. They played really, really well against Notre Dame, played really well against the number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward in the Miami Hurricanes. They just had no defense in that game. And then they played competitively against an SMU team that people weren't high on at the time, but they ended up making the ACC championship and ultimately the college football playoff. So, a couple things go their way and Louisville would have made it. Now, they laid an egg against Stanford. You can't defend that in any way, shape, or form. And that's kind of been the trend with Jeff Brom. He upsets these teams, but then he lays an egg in the same year. Upset Notre Dame in 23, lose to Pitt on the road. Upset Clemson on the road, dominate Clemson. I was there, saw it in person in Death Valley, and they just owned the Tigers that day. But then you throw it all away against Stanford. I don't get it. But it's starting to become a trend, unfortunately, for the Cardinals. We'll have to see how they do with Miller Moss, too. Jeff Brom, I will say what he does have going for him is just the quarterback whisperer, especially got Tyler Shuck really well, productive in 2024. And the big thing with him was he's injury prone. Well, he pretty much did his job in 2024, and he was a high pick because of that in the second round. So we'll have to see how it goes in 2025 for this Cardinal team, but I'm going to be watching, and I'm going to be tuned in. So lastly, on college football, staying in the ACC with Bill Belichick. He's entering his first year for the North Carolina Tar Heels down in Chapel Hill. And a lot swirling around just because he is Bill Belichick, one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach in NFL history, building those dynasties with the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, being a successful coach as a defensive coordinator under Bill Parcells. How is he going to translate to the college game? It's not the same, but it's interesting nonetheless. He's ripping out the turf. He's putting in natural grass for their stadium, trying to get them ready for the pros. And the other question is Jordan Hudson going to be a distraction? Supposedly she's either banned from all football activities or only banned. No, she's not banned from that. She's just limited. I don't know what the situation's going on there with Hudson, but if you're Bill Belichick, you can't have that be a distraction. And who knows? It's Bill Belichick. He'll do whatever he wants. But, some people are saying that Belichick's not going to coach even a game for North Carolina. I disagree. I think he's going to get through a full season, whether it's good or bad, and then he'll reevaluate the situation at the end of the year, whether he decides to go back to the pros or just retire altogether. We'll have to see. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you either way. He kind of likes to keep to himself. It's Bill Belichick. But kind of similar to Louisville, I think they'll upset someone really good and then lay a goose egg against someone who they're definitely more talented and basically better than. But that's why you play the game, so that you can get those bragging rights. But yeah, that's what's going on in college football. Now, what's going on in other sports here? We'll start off with, because we're in the Derby City, Sovereignty. Sovereignty, who won the Kentucky Derby, won the 151st Kentucky Derby, is not running in the Preakness Stakes. Now, what does that mean? That means they will not attempt a shot at the Triple Crown, which is really unfortunate. A Triple Crown hasn't been won since American Pharoah back in 2015. Before that, hadn't been won since Secretariat, the greatest horse of all time, or at least racing horse of all time, all the way back in the 70s, the 1970s. My thing is unless you're injured, or at least you have a legitimate reason, why would you not want to race in the Preakness? Why would you not want to try to go for the Triple Crown? You're trying to make history. Why not be the competitor that you are and race in that race? I don't get it. I'm also not an expert on this field. I would say that I'm a casual horse racing fan, but I'm not a jockey. I'm not a trainer. I don't know all the ins and outs, but it is really unfortunate that we won't be seeing Sovereignty run in the Preakness Stakes. Now, as far who I think is going to win the Preakness Stakes, it's probably going to be a Baffert horse. My bet would be Journalism, just like it was in the Kentucky Derby. Also the favorite in the Kentucky Derby as well, got second place, but also maybe he's just the favorite because everyone's picking him like how I am because I work in the industry. I see Journalism. I'm like, I have to pick that horse. Maybe that's what the bettors are thinking too, or I don't know. Or maybe the fact that he's just a Baffert horse is another reason why. Could definitely be the reason. Staying in sports on the soil, we're going to talk about the NBA. Postseason, obviously getting into the thick of it. The New York Knicks, one of the most clutch teams in basketball right now. Jalen Brunson is on fire. A really good cast of players on that team. Coached by Tom Thibodeau. Played alongside Cat, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson. Just a really good nucleus that is probably going to take advantage, unfortunately, based off of the Jason Tatum Achilles injury. But they were pretty much dominating the series anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But really unfortunate. Hopefully he has a really good recovery, although it's probably going to take some time. So best of thoughts towards him. So it's looking like the Knicks will face off against the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Pacers, a team that dominated the Cleveland Cavaliers, just owned that series, made Cleveland look way worse than what their record was. And Tyrese Halliburton voted as the most overrated player in basketball. I don't know how that happened. What media outlet decided to do that poll? Probably just wanted to stir the pot and get some engagement on Twitter or whatever it is. I don't know, but just kind of is what it is. But Halliburton using that to his motivation so far. But that's what's been going on, at least in the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference with the Timberwolves. Haven't really been following that as much as the Eastern Conference, but it's going to be interesting. So that's what's been going on in the NBA. Oh, I forgot to talk about the NBA draft lottery, of course, with the Dallas Mavericks getting the number 1 overall pick. They have like a 1% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. A lot of people saying, is the draft lottery rigged? Who knows? Adam Silver's saying, oh, well, if it wasn't rigged, it would be 100%. Who knows? Of course you're going to say that. That's the most deflective answer I've ever heard, but he's got to do what he's got to do. He's the commissioner of the NBA, and you got to respect him for that. He's protecting the brand. But as Dwayne Wade said, it is a business. And no better way to get more engagement than see the Dallas Mavericks getting the number 1 overall pick because they traded Luka. Because if they didn't trade Luka, they would be in the NBA playoffs. Now, at this point of the season, they probably wouldn't be in the semifinals or the finals of the conference finals. But, it's just kind of interesting how that all plays out. Yeah. We've seen this happen before. We've seen it with Derrick Rose and the Chicago Bulls, with Patrick Ewing and the New York Knicks, where people are saying, oh, the envelope's bent, and here's the video. Who knows? There's no clear, cut, and dry evidence that the NBA draft lottery is rigged, but it is suspicious nonetheless. So it's interesting to see these conclusions come up either way. But that's what's been going on in the NBA. Now for our last segment of the show, where we get interesting food for thoughts, as I mentioned earlier, starting off with this question. If you had food representing offensive positions in football, what would they be? I got the answer for you. So, at the offensive line, and you can say you can count tight ends in this position and wide receiver position. Doesn't really matter to me. On the offensive line, you got steaks. You got a T-bone steak because they're holding down the fort on the line. It's got a lot of meat packed in. They can do the run block. They can do pass block. They can hold down the fort of the trenches on the line of scrimmage. T-bone steak. I'm rolling with that. And then at the wide receivers, I'm going to go with subs and sandwiches because they're versatile. You can get different types of receivers. You can get a Hines Ward, who's a really good blocking receiver, a possession receiver like Larry Fitzgerald or Calvin Johnson, or a speed receiver like Tyreek Hill. There's different types of sandwiches, and whatever necessity you need for your offensive scheme, you can build that sandwich. You can build that receiver into your offense. So that's why I chose that. At the running back position, burgers. Now, why burgers? Kind of similar to sandwiches, but a little bit different because they have a little bit more strength to them. Now, power backs, like a Jim Brown, Derrick Henry, Those are the strong burgers. Those are the ones that like men love to eat those burgers. I'm going on a tangent here, and this is starting to turn into a meme. But anyway, you also have your speed running backs in Saquon Barkley and Barry Sanders. You can make different types of burgers. You can have your veggie burgers, impossible burgers. You can have your whatever burger that may be. You can do your double burgers is what I was trying to go for. I don't know why I was thinking the strong. I was going on. Yeah, we're too much in the weeds here. We're in the trenches now. But yeah, at the quarterback position, finally, we got pizza. And the reason why I say that is because of the intangibles that make up a pizza and a quarterback. Your quarterback is trying to manage the game. And what better way to manage the game than use the food for that position that is used for everything? Pizza. Oh, we're having a party. Let's go get some pizza. We're having a business meeting. Let's go get some pizza. We're getting some food for the kid. We don't really want to make food. Oh, let's just go get some pizza. There's different ways to make a pizza. You have your mobile quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick, that can get the different toppings that encompass a pizza. That's really interesting. And that's exactly what that position needs. Quarterback, pizza, it's perfect. So now a quick recap of what groups are which. Offensive line, T-bone steaks. Receivers, subs and sandwiches. Running backs, burgers. Quarterback, pizza. So there's that. There you go. We've answered that. Next week, we'll talk about the defensive positions as well as special teams and what food groups make up those roles. Now, moving along, my last question, then I'll leave it at that for this episode. Now, if there was another Bristol Motor Speedway, what would it be? Let's add some context to this. So, Bristol Motor Speedway, it's a NASCAR track. I believe it's a shorter track compared to most NASCAR tracks because NASCAR tracks are massive and you can't be too big because you're trying to, on to my point. They had a college football game there back, I believe 2016. Wow, it's crazy. It's almost been 10 years between the Tennessee Volunteers and the Virginia Tech Hokies. It set the record for most attended college football game in history. And it's going to have history again in August when the Atlanta Braves and Cincinnati Reds play a Major League Baseball game on that racetrack. I'm amped. I'm excited for it. But it goes back to the question, what is the next Bristol Motor Speedway that can host an event like that? And you got to get creative, I think. You're seeing it with the Savannah Bananas, playing baseball in literally college football stadiums and regular NFL football stadiums. They played in the Titans. Clemson. They played baseball in Clemson's football stadium. That's just bizarre to me. Anyway, some other places you can think about. I saw once on an April Fool's post that there was a carrier. I think it was USF and FAU playing on a naval carrier on the water where it was a football game. Not like the what Michigan State and a couple other schools have done on those military SSSRs or whatever they're called, those naval ships. No, actually a football game on a ship like that. That would be insane. Just absolutely insane. But I think you got to get creative, as I said, maybe having a Savannah Banana football game, but it's played at I don't know, the Masters or at Augusta or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of avenues. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on what's the next Bristol Motor Speedway. I'll definitely look at those, and I want to inspire, give me some ideas. But that'll do it. So that's episode 1 of the Tyler Bright and Early podcast, PBJ Productions' official flagship podcast of all things college football. Thanks for joining me on this ride. It's going to be a great one. Thanks for tuning in.